Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I am Bryson Carver, clean-shaven, haircut and all. And you know what? Wanted to go with a fresh look, you know what I'm saying? Just try and start from the jump. You know what I'm saying? There's like a satisfying process when you're growing facial hair, you're growing your hair. I don't know. Maybe this is a guy thing. Maybe this is a me thing. From starting from the beginning, going to where you want to get. So clean shaven face, I guess, at the very end of this NBA Finals. Or is it the end of this NBA Finals? I'll discuss that in just a second. Admittedly, narrow path the Dallas Mavericks would have to take in order to beat the Boston Celtics. But I do believe it is a possibility. Also, getting into the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese thing, we're going to talk about the basketball. We're not talking about the off-court nonsense that the bad actors, I shouldn't say all of them, a lot of bad actors in the media are trying to promote it as. Oh, then I'm going to put that aside. Why I do think there's a very interesting reason why Caitlin versus Angel actually is a rivalry, despite Caitlin obviously being the better player. And there's actually a really interesting comp for it. I'll discuss that in about 12 to 15 minutes. Also, going to get Aaron Rodgers. We got a report that came in not very long ago from one of the most trusted sources in professional football, Mr. Albert Breer, that would suggest that we now know why Aaron is gone. And it validates everything I said on him last week on Thursday. Actually, a video I uploaded today. Definitely check that out. Not after you watch today's show, of course, but check that out for sure. And at the end of today's show, Game 5 predictions for this NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks. Very excited to get into that stuff as well as Klay Thompson's talk. So Klay Thompson unfollow my Warriors on Instagram, and that was a sad thing to see for me as a Warriors fan because, you know, Klay's my guy. I'll get into that in about a half hour. But first, so Dallas not only keeps their season alive, but does so in dominant fashion in Game 4 of the NBA Finals on Friday. I did predict Dallas to win. In the name of pick integrity, I said, you know what? If Dallas loses, I go down with the ship. I'm going to be loyal to my pick. Dallas not only wins, but wins in dominant fashion, 122-84. The Mavericks go on to go only 14-41 for three-point range. The Celtics, ironically, hit more threes in this game, but Dallas was dominant start to finish. Luka Doncic was excellent, particularly, and this was a credit to Luka, because I and everybody's mama called Luka after Game 3. Like, bad effort on the defensive end, at least be respectable and not be, as Pat Bev once called Chris Paul, a cone on that end of the floor. Luka Doncic is the primary defender, held Boston Celtics players to 2 of 11. And throughout that game, I mean, closeouts. You know, even if he's not playing amazing Gary Payton defense or an all-time great guard defender like a Michael Jordan, for example, he's staying in front of guys. He was moving his feet. I think there was one play early on the first half where Jayson Tatum is being guarded by Luka, and Tatum drives past almost like at a 75% speed, assuming that's enough to get by Luka. Luka shuts him off, and Tatum, again, I'm not going to play a body language expert, but almost looks a little surprised, like, oh, okay. Like, I did not see that coming. I didn't think Luka was going to step in front of me because he didn't do it at all in Game 3 or throughout the course of the first 3 games of the series. So Dallas now down 3-1. Of course, as we know, no team in the history of the NBA Finals has ever come back. Heck, forget that, the NBA Finals. In the history of the NBA playoffs, has come back from down at 3-0 in a best-of-7 series. Here's the thing for Dallas. So again, I'm not going to, what I'm about to say has almost nothing to do with Friday night. Almost nothing to do with it. Dallas was supposed to win in many respects. I know Boston was favored to win the game. I would have been really surprised. I talked about the potential of Luka getting swept on Friday, what it would mean. The other superstars in NBA history have been swept. I didn't think Dallas would get swept as a guy who picked them to win the series. But Dallas winning the dominant fashion they did was a combination of Boston having a ton of room for error, given that they're up 3-0, and they're the better starting 5 compared to Dallas' starting 5, and the fact that Dallas was desperate and at home. So I want you to follow me on a little journey here into a very narrow possibility that the Dallas Mavericks win this series. And again, I think, is it 156-0? Teams that have been up 3-0 in a 7-game series that have gone on to win, obviously. Only 4 of those have ever faced a Game 7. Ironically, one of those teams was the Boston Celtics a year ago, down 3-0 to Miami, came back to tie the series and go to a Game 7. Tonight's Game 5, and I'll predict the game at the end of the show, is going to be the best chance, I think, by far, for the Celtics to win this series. You're like, Bryson, they got 3 opportunities. They have 4 opportunities. Well, okay, we'll just flush game 4 down the toilet. You got 3 opportunities to win 1 game. If Boston doesn't do it tonight, boy, you want to talk about pressure. Because in my mind, if this puppy goes to a game 6 in Dallas, if memory serves me correctly, Luka Doncic has never been closed out at home in his career. Because 2020 was the bubble. There was no home games. 2021, he was closed out in LA against the Clippers in Game 7. 2022 is closed out on the road after almost getting swept by the Warriors in this conference finals. Dallas won Game 4, got blown out in Game 5 by Golden State. You think about, and that's really the only 2 series Luka's lost in a home court advantage-like series. There's no way Dallas loses Game 6. I'm not saying Dallas wins Game 7 by default just by coming back from 3-0 because we saw what Boston did. At home, nonetheless. Just got again, Tatum turned his ankle in that game. There's a lot of factors, but Miami just outplayed them, out-physicaled them from the jump. If this puppy gets to a Game 7, because I don't think Dallas will lose a Game 6, you want to talk about pressure. After all, for years and years, Tatum and Brown can get the job done, and now you're on the doorstep. Now it's like, okay, yeah, they're 15-2, dominant playoff run. Folks are having conversations. Is this one of the greatest teams in NBA history? Certainly one of the greatest individual seasons in NBA history, potentially. And all of a sudden, holy crap, we're in a Game 7, potentially to win the finals, but also to lose the finals. I give Boston a 90% chance to win tonight. Tatum hasn't been good throughout the series. We can actually show you. You know what? I'll do the Tatum segment in a few minutes. But Tatum hasn't been good throughout the series. But if he's a C+, B-, Boston will take that. I think Jaylen Brown will be much better in Boston than he was in Dallas. He wasn't particularly good. He was good in Game 3. Was awful. Everybody for Boston was awful in Game 4. Again, you see what you get from guys like Porzingis. His health is still a little bit of a concern. It's a very, very weird injury that he suffered a week ago in Game 2. All these factors, I think Boston's role players will shoot better. A guy like a Sam Hauser, a Peyton Pritchard, a Drew Holiday, obviously, who'll be much better offensively, you would think, in Boston than in Dallas. On the other side of the coin, Luka's Luka. I know what I'm getting from him. Kyrie's the wild card. Getting to him in just a second. And the other guys for Dallas were absolutely as bad as Boston was shooting from 3 the first 2 games of the series, and really throughout the series. Dallas was just as bad, if not worse. And so that is the case for a Boston Celtics win tonight. It's the very reason they're favored by 6.5 points in Game 5. And history, of course, on their side. What I would tell you is this. So Kyrie Irving, we know coming into Game 4, lost 13 straight games to the Boston Celtics. I believe since the whole stomping on Lucky thing, right? The whole, the curse of Lucky is what some Celtics fans deemed it. Like, Kyrie hasn't beaten Boston since. Well, that monkey's off his back because the Mavs won Game 4. I said after Game 2 when Kyrie played poorly in the first 2 games, because clearly the Boston crowd was messing with him, that the home court of Dallas, ease in, calm down, the crowd's on your side, get your rhythm back in this series, and we can show you what Kyrie has done. What he did in the first 2 games of Boston as opposed to Dallas, and this obviously, as you might imagine, quite different. In Boston, Kyrie averaged 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists on 35% from the field. Did not make a 3 in Boston. 0% from 3-point range. In Dallas, those numbers, certainly the points per game, double. He goes from 14 points to 28 points in Dallas. Assist numbers stay the same. He goes up 1 rebound. Field goal percentage goes from 35 to 50 in Dallas. 3-point percentage skyrockets. It's impossible not to. From 0 to 41%. So Kyrie plays kind of like the Kyrie we become accustomed to throughout this playoff run and even back in the days as LeBron's co-star in Cleveland. So Kyrie's not watching this. That I know for a fact. Kyrie Irving is not watching this show. I will just, if there's a Hail Mary chance that anybody who knows Kyrie Irving is watching this, it could be his dad, it could be anybody in his own circle, very slim chance they're watching this. But in the event that they are, let me take a drink of water for a moment. Look at the camera and address Kyrie through whoever may know him and is watching this. Kyrie Irving, you've been on quite the roller coaster as it pertains to your relationship with the Boston Celtics. As a matter of fact, it would be, I guess, classified as a drop coaster, or it's like those. I actually went to a theme park yesterday to celebrate my dad for Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, everybody. But those rides where you go like 100 feet up and you just come straight down, that's really Kyrie Irving's relationship with the Boston Celtics, because it's gone down ever since it ever since it began in 2017. So that's no secret. But Kyrie Irving, here's what I can tell you. You've gotten your rhythm. You've been more efficient. You scored the basketball more consistently. A strong argument can be made. I would make it that Kyrie Irving was the best Mav in Game 3, not Luka. In large part because of Luka's defense, Luka fouling out. Kyrie was a more reliable player for the Dallas Mavericks in that basketball game. You've gotten your rhythm like we've seen throughout the course of the majority of this playoff run. This will be the hardest, and I include 2016 against Golden State. I'm not kidding. The hardest game you will ever have to win. But I don't need you to be Superman. I need number 77 over there to be Superman, but I've seen him be Superman. Or Batman, whatever, if we want to use the Robin example. Go get your 25. Go be efficient. Don't, put good effort in the defensive end. I'm not asking you to be Gary Payton. Not asking you to be Tony Allen or anybody, but good effort in the defensive end. Make it tough. Again, close out and shooters, the whole bit. Take a deep breath. But the Boston crowd, they don't exist. They never happen. That's easier said than done. I get that. It's one thing to be the man in the arena and the guy sitting in my seat as a podcast host. But just for this game, because if you go back there for a Game 7, the tables will have turned then, my man. Pressure's off you. Yes, I could lose to the team that I spurned in 2019, lose a championship on their floor, but I already beat them there, and we've won 3 straight games against them. We've got to a Game 7. There's no pressure on me. I hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history against a 73-win Warriors team. I've been here, and I've done that before. Kyrie. Deep breath, exhale, enjoy the moment. Do what you do as well as any human being on the face of God's green earth, and that is play basketball at the highest level. Efficient shooting, good effort in the defensive end, and come up clutch the fourth quarter. Because my guess is I'm predicting this game at the end of the show, this puppy's going to be close. I do not see Boston blowing them out. I don't really see Dallas blowing Boston out. So that's my message to Kyrie Irving. It's as simple as this. Boston should win tonight. They should. They absolutely should win this game tonight. They had the momentum. They got the split in Dallas they wanted. You close out on your home floor. Banner number 18. If Dallas pulls this off, they're going to win the series. Barring injury. Barring major injury, knock on wood, nobody gets hurt. I don't want anybody for either side getting hurt. Knock on wood, nobody gets injured. If Dallas wins tonight, they will be your 2024 NBA champions. I'm telling you right now. I'm not saying I'm picking them. Not saying I'm not picking them. I'll predict that at the end of the show. But I think the path is far from easy. You got to win 3 basketball games against a team that has lost 3 games total in these NBA playoffs. But I've seen crazier. Not much crazier. I mean, I saw 28-3, Tom Brady. I've seen some crazy stuff, but then this would be up there. You win tonight. And by the way, could I just say this? Could I argue? There's a couple of quotes here that I saw from Jayson Tatum and from Sam Hauser that were probably really interesting, okay? And they're almost identical. Sam Hauser. Now, he's a bench player. The Celtics aren't relying on him to give them 20 or 30 tonight. But he did say, quote, if we do lose, it's not like it's the end of the world. Jayson Tatum, his quote, almost identical. We would love to win. If it's talking about Game 5. If it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. That is obviously true and indisputable. I don't really want you saying that. Sam Howard was one thing. My man Jayson Tatum, and let's get into him. Actually, let's look at the comments real quick. I don't love him saying that either. Let's look at the comments super fast. We'll move to Jayson Tatum. Barry Grant Jr., All Even Podcast. What's up? He says, bless you for covering this with the passion you do, but this ish is over. It very well may be, by the way, Barry. Listen, if Boston wins this series, they're doing it tonight. That's my take. If Boston wins this series, then I'm going to be on Wednesday's show talking about the Celtics as the 2024 NBA champions and talking about what Dallas is going to do, if Boston can go back-to-back, all that. If that happens, I'll be talking about Celtics championship on Wednesday. If it doesn't happen tonight, I'll be talking about a Mavs championship a week from today. I'm telling you. John Rivera, just as confident. Celtics winning tonight. Again, listen. Smart money's on Boston. If you're a betting man, and listen, as a segment on my show, particularly through the football season goes,
We're a betting man.
If I were a betting man, I would definitely roll with the Celtics to win tonight. I'm just saying, the avenue for Dallas, if you can somehow, some way, through sheer grit, will, and Luka brilliance, and Kyrie is going to have to show up on the offensive end. You can win tonight. Not saying you will. You can win tonight. And all of a sudden, the floodgates open. You got a game 6 on your home floor. By that point, game 7, again, the pressure, it's like 95-5 Boston. It's not even close. To Jayson Tatum, I said, and I quote, coming into this series, if your opinion, positively or negatively, on Jayson Tatum is not affected by these NBA Finals, positively or negatively, it is a closed-minded way of viewing things. Now, these NBA Finals are not over. Could end tonight, could end Thursday. If it gets to Game 7, it will end Sunday. Barring something quite unforeseen, I say this is the biggest Jayson Tatum fan on planet Earth. But my opinion of him has changed. If I'm gonna ask everybody else to, hey, change your opinion. If you're a Tatum hater and he plays great, you should change your opinion on him, or at least adjust it. Not change it necessarily entirely, but adjust it. On the other side, if you have a positive view of Tatum, he plays poorly in the finals, your view of him shift. Well, my view of him's shifting because I was a guy who was, and I'm still a Tatum guy. I still love Jayson Tatum, and that doesn't negate the things I've said about in the past as it pertains to his biggest games of his career have come with his back against the wall. Game 6 against Boston. Game 6 and 7 against Philly. Like, we've seen it. Game 7 against Miami 2 years ago. We've seen Jayson Tatum do these things. But two things could be true. Jayson Tatum is an excellent playoff performer and not a very good finals performer. He's just not. We could show you his numbers in the NBA Finals through 10 games. That's a pretty big sample size. He averages about 21 points per game, which is good till you look at the efficiency. 7 rebounds, 6 assists, okay. Until you get to 36% for the field, 38% from 3. The worst stat of all, 0 games of shooting 50% or better. He's played 10 finals games in his career, 6 in 2022. For thus far this year, he has never shot above 50%. As a 6'8", 6'9" wing, that's not great. And we can update the stat. I showed you the stat where comparing Tatum's field goal percentage through however many games the finals, 8 career finals games with 100 attempts and then 150 attempts. And I think he had the second worst field goal percentage with 100 attempts, worst percentage with 150. Now we can show you 175. We can pull up this stat right here. Actually, it doesn't look like we have it on here, but the stat was for Jayson Tatum. He shoots the worst percentage in NBA history with 175 attempts through 10 games of a finals career. Like, he's not an efficient player in the finals. And there's a very weird, I've talked about before where Jayson Tatum doesn't give off the stone cold killer aura that a LeBron James does, that a Steph Curry does, that heck an Anthony Edwards does, that throw out another play, Giannis does, Luka does. That's just not Tatum's MO. But as I've said before, I don't think it necessarily has to be. When we think about Magic Johnson, albeit Magic was not a score-first player, but when we think Magic Johnson, do we think, boy, killer mentality? No, but Magic's the greatest point guard ever. I don't think that was... And again, it's not necessarily a point guard's role to be... The game was very different back then. The definition of a point guard is different then than it is now, but you get what I'm saying. You don't necessarily have to have that. But I saw in Game 2... I saw it even a little bit in Game 3 and Game 4. I don't really care that much for Tatum for anybody for the Celtics. Nobody played well. But there's this weird... The thing with Tatum that is so odd to me, he's missing a lot of shots. Those looks he's hit all season long, all career long. People have crushed him. Oh, the step back 3. He's hit a million of those in the regular season. Oh, going to the rim. He's very good at that in the regular season. Him and Brown are excellent driving to the basket statistically. He's taking a bunch of shots that's not bad shots. Shots he's very comfortable taking. But there's this, again, I don't want to be the body language expert, but there's a weird sort of uncertainty that he exudes when he's driving the basket. It's not like he's going half speed, but he's struggling to finish the rim. Excuse me. His 3-point shot just, I don't know. The shots look good in terms of where he's taking them on the floor. But again, his facial expressions, again, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but my opinion on him has shifted. It would be, again, as I said before, close-minded of me, or for anybody, at least who falls into my camp of Jayson Tatum fan. to say that my opinion of him isn't moved. It has not moved any at all from how he's played in the finals. It has to move. Because my thing was 2 years ago, you're like, why was your opinion so high after what happened against the Warriors? Because it was against the Warriors. Because the best player on the other side of the floor, in my mind, we can argue about this another day, is the 6th greatest basketball player ever, Steph Curry. Prime Steph Curry, mind you, on the best finals run of his career. They had Draymond Green to guard him. They had Andrew Wiggins to guard him. They had Klay Thompson to guard him. All Klay kind of toward the end of his prime, but all of them really good defensive players on ball. So I give him a pass for that. Now, Dallas can guard you. I mean, if you look at what Boston's done offensively as it pertains to points per game, they're not exploding offensively against the Dallas Mavericks. We could show you. Game 1, they score 107, 105, 106, and 84 on Friday night. A lot of that, again, was just Boston saying, hey, we'll get him in game 5. So, again, you can't put too much weight into that. Dallas' defense has been really good, but why is Jaylen Brown getting his shots at points? Why is Drew Holiday getting shots? Jayson Tatum's not getting double-teamed. This is not a situation where guys are swarming to stop Tatum. Now, he's the focal point of Dallas's focus because he's the guy with the highest ceiling when it comes to beating you one-on-one off the dribble or a catch and shoot, playing off the ball, whatever the case may be. But if Derek White goes for 25, 30 and beats us, what are you going to do? Well, what are you going to do? He's a really good player, but we got to focus on their top 2, Tatum and Brown. Now, Brown's been much better. If the finals ended today or if it had it ended Friday, I think Brown gets MVP. I don't know who gets MVP if Boston wins tonight. I don't think it's Tatum. To me, it's between Brown or Drew Holiday, but especially depending on what Drew does offensively tonight. But it's been a very, very weird series for Tatum. And again, I can't view Jayson Tatum the same now as I did 2 weeks ago. I can't do it. I think it'd be intellectually dishonest if I did. So that's my take on Tatum. John Rivera in the comments. Big game from Luka and Kyrie, but the Celtics will have a great team effort tonight. I mean, that's kind of the formula that I'm thinking if Boston wins, where Tatum gives you an inefficient 21, because that's what he averages for his finals career. Brown gives you about that, maybe about 23, 24. Holiday gives you 15 to 20. Derek White hits some big shots. Al Horford gives you double digits off the bench. Maybe Pritchard or Sam Hauser hits a couple threes. Porzingis gives you what he can give you. And Boston wins this game tonight. So that to me feels like the scenario in which the Celtics do it, because that's what they did in game 1 and 2. That's what they've done throughout these whole playoffs long. We haven't had I think Tatum had a big game 3 against the Pacers, but I think over the course of the playoffs, we haven't had just a one-man wrecking crew explosion from Tatum, Brown, or anybody. It's just been more of it's very 04 Detroit Pistons. It's very 2014 San Antonio Spurs. Like, no one clear, number one option offensively, but who gets the open shot? Who gets to take the shot? Open man. Which is a beautiful way to play basketball. I'd argue it's the right way to play basketball, depending on how your team's constructed. So, credit to Boston for really embracing that. It's why they're a win away from a championship. So, also, again, I was talking about Kyrie earlier, and he had some quotes. If I could pull this up, because I thought they were fascinating, but also a little bit, take it out of context a little bit. Excuse me. So, if I can pull up the Kyrie comments, because he was talking about the interview or not the interview. He was talking about his time in Boston and all that, and how he never really embraced sort of the culture there. And yeah, it doesn't look like it. I can find it here because it just popped in my head. Basically, he was talking about how he couldn't really embrace I think he called it like the cult of Boston, which, by the way, he went on in the interview to say that wasn't like a shot at Boston. That was that's their identity. Like, it is all for one for all type of thing. And he just really couldn't buy into that the way he could for other franchises. Take that for what you will, but that was Kyrie's quote. Also, while we're on the topic of Boston sports, it should be noted that the Boston Red Sox, my Boston Red Sox, took 2 of 3 off the Philadelphia Phillies, the number 1 team in the National League. But more importantly, after losing game 1 on Friday to the Bronx Bombers, the New York Yankees, on Saturday, the Red Sox handed the Yankees an L.
The Yankees lose.
And yesterday, in what was a franchise record 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 steals. 9 steals. This is mid-80s baseball, baby. The Boston Red Sox won 9-3, and
The Yankees lose.
love it. Listen, I have always been one to be objective as I can humanly be of all of my teams. And coming into the season, I did not have my Red Sox making the playoffs. Thought the American League was stacked, and the Yankees are going to go on to win that division. I don't see Baltimore catching them, but listen, Red Sox are game 2 out of the wild card picture. We're in mid-June, so we still have another 3 months to go. There's a trade deadline. Are the Red Sox buyers, sellers? Neither. Listen, the inactivity by the Boston Red Sox front office has driven me absolutely insane. The fact that this is one of the richest ownership groups in professional sports, and yet they don't seem to have any sort of, and it's weird, the aggressive feel that they've had in years past as it pertains to going out and getting a Josh Beckett to help win the 07 title, going out and getting JD Martinez to win the 2018 title. Like, the aggressive nature of the Boston Red Sox feels like it's kind of gone by the wayside ever since the Mookie Betts trade, which unfortunately yesterday, by the way, Mookie Betts breaking his hand on a inside pitch just sucks. All the best to Mookie. Hopefully he gets back pretty soon. But it feels like the identity of the Red Sox in that regard has changed. I alluded to that a couple weeks ago. But listen, take 2 of 3 off, and it was at Fenway nonetheless, but take 2 of 3 out the best team in the NL, take 2 of 3 out the best in the AL. Hey, 4-2 ain't bad. I'll take that, especially against those gosh darn Yankees. Come on, man. Listen, I'd be lying to you if I didn't think at this point the Yankees are the clear favorites to win the AL pennant. But this is the Yankees we're talking about. What they go the whole 2010s without winning a title now. 86 years for the Red Sox, but it's a new day. It's a new day in Beantown, or really a new era, so to speak. So we'll see. But that was nice to see my Red Sox do. Also, did you see the end of the U.S. Open? Bryson DeChambeau, shout out to another Bryson. Bryson DeChambeau winning a second U.S. Open against Rory McIlroy with that bunker shot. That bunker shot after Rory missed the putt was wow. One of the more dramatic moments I've seen in a golf tournament at a major. So, kudos to Bryson for getting the job done, and shout out to you, represent all the Brysons out there. We're hanging in there together. All right, let's transition to Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. So, as is normally the case when these two involved in the same story, even separate stories unto themselves, there is fake outrage, controversy, bad actors galore. We're not going to give them any airtime. We're not going to do that today. I've relitigated that enough. I've ranted on both sides as it pertains to the culture wars and the nonsense that has nothing to do with basketball, that were not put out by the WNBA, by its players, but by the media at large. So as far as the game yesterday, so Angel Reese's Chicago Sky went to Indiana to take on Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever. The Fever did win this basketball game 91-83. The Fever won back-to-back games, 3 out of 4. And if the playoffs began today, ladies and gentlemen, Caitlin Clark's in it. It's a 12-team WNBA. 8 teams get in. Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever would get in. And I think you're seeing a clear correlation between the Fever actually getting time in between games as opposed to what they weren't getting their first 11 games this season to rest. Caitlin Clark needs rest as much as any player in the WNBA because of the college schedule and her WNBA schedule. But you're seeing that you've seen her play much better. Caitlin in this basketball game, by the way, dropped 23, 9, and 8 on 23 points and 11 shots is like peak level efficiency. But there was controversy. So in the third quarter, Caitlin's driving to the basket down the left side, and Angel Reese comes out of nowhere, comes from behind her, and we could show you the video right here, kind of whacks her in the head right there, and it was called a flagrant one. You'll see the replay a few more times here, but Angel Reese whacks Caitlin Clark across the head. It was deemed a flagrant one foul. Caitlin Clark, went to the line and knocked down her free throws. And again, Angel Reese was assessed a flagrant one foul. We'll show you one more look of it right there. And I do think that it is, for one, anybody debating, oh, this is a dirty play. I do not think it was a dirty play. I think it was what Angel said, and most notably, what Caitlin said, because I think this matters when you think about what happened with Kennedy Carter 2 weeks ago. Because Caitlin said after the game, they asked her, and she said it's a basketball play. And people are like, oh, she whacked her in the head. She was going for the ball. We could show the freeze frame right here. There's Caitlin getting hit over the head. Look at Angel Reese. Where's Angel Reese's line of vision directed towards? The ball. The white and orange ball, that's what Angel Reese is looking at. If she was like looking at Caitlin Clark or again, anything of that nature, if it looked intentional, that'd be a different story. You would probably be talking about certainly a flagrant 2 for Angel Reese, maybe even a potential suspension because of the severity of that foul. What I found interesting about that is the fact that when the whole Kennedy Carter thing happened with Caitlin Clark, when the Sky traveled to Indiana to take on the Fever 2 weekends ago, I thought it was very interesting because that was clearly intentional. Clearly, Caitlin's just standing there. You have Kennedy Carter, who has a history of these things in practice throughout her career. She yells the B word at Caitlin, comes in and blindsides her and just assessed a flagrant 1. And there's the controversy around that. It was clearly an intentional play, clearly not a basketball play. And Caitlin said as much in an interview after the third quarter. She said, yeah, that's not a basketball play. In the case with Angel Reese, she said verbatim, that's a basketball play. So in that regard, and some have even argued by the letter of the law, if you look at the definition of a flagrant foul, that you could argue it wasn't even a flagrant 1. I would have called it a flagrant 1. I would have called it a flagrant 1 in the NBA. You whack somebody clean across the head, whether you're going for the ball or not. Again, that's my definition. Maybe I'm wrong for that, but that's a flagrant 1 in my estimation. What I think is kind of the bigger topic of conversation, because Angel and Caitlin have now played each other 4 times over the course of the last, 15 months or so, or really, no, 14 months or so since last year's national title game. And Angel got the first one, LSU winning the national title in 2023. Caitlin's won 3 straight. The Elite 8 this year, the regular season game 2 weekends ago, and then yesterday. So Caitlin's on a 3-game winning streak against Angel Reese and is obviously, undeniably, and unequivocally the better player. And so for that reason, people are like, is it really a rivalry? Is Caitlin Clark, is Angel Reese a rivalry because you have one player, as good as Angel Reese is, and she is clearly the second best player of this rookie class, Caitlin Clark is in a class unto herself. Could I make the case? Because my definition of rivalry when it comes to teams, and even to a certain degree quarterbacks, because of the immense value they have on an organization, on a football team, that my definition of rivalry is man with the core players, the core sort of characters to the story that are involved in a playoff series, in a playoff game, or multiple series or games. Each team has got to get the other at least once. Got to get them at least once. If the Warriors had gotten the Cavs all 4 times, I'm sorry, that's not a rivalry. It's the thing that I've argued ad nauseum. I remember during January getting red in the face talking about it. The Josh Allen-Mahomes debate. Josh Allen is amazing. He's an absolute, no doubt, top 5 quarterback. Mahomes is obviously better. No, even Josh Allen fans would not argue that. Mahomes outplayed him all 3 playoff games. Chiefs have won all 3 playoff games. I can't deem that a rivalry. Like Golden State, Houston, oh man, they were going back and forth. It's not a rivalry. Golden State got them all 4 times. There's got to be, in a rivalry, some sort of push and pull. So you saw with Magic and Bird in the 80s, there was a back and forth. Lakers got one. Celtics got one. It was back and forth. So, by definition, Angel got Caitlin once. Caitlin's got her the next 3 times. You say, yeah, but A, different positions. Caitlin's a guard. Angel is a forward. And B, clear gap. Caitlin's much better than Angel, even though Angel's a good player. Could I make the case? And for the record, I am not saying that either of these particular players are going to accomplish in their field what these particular athletes accomplished in theirs. Same sport, by the way. But let's show you Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese's stats head-to-head. This is when they're facing head-to-head. Caitlin, obviously much better, except for rebounds, much better than Angel. This is the 2 college games and the 2 WNBA games. Caitlin averages 26 points. Angel Reese doesn't even average half that at 12. Caitlin averages 6 rebounds. Angel more than doubles that at 14 rebounds. She's a double-double machine. Caitlin averages 8 assists, almost 9. Reese averages 3 assists, almost 4. And Caitlin, as a guard, not as a forward, as a guard, averages 45% for the field. Angel Reese averages about 32.5% from the field. So Caitlin's clearly better statistically in the 4 matchups. Now, what I'm about to show you is not 4 individual games, but rather 4 series. I'd make a case that it is akin to that of Steph Curry and LeBron James from the 15 to 18 finals. We can show you their numbers. So Steph puts up excellent numbers from the 15 to 18 finals. 25 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 42% for the field. You'd like that to be a little higher, but efficiency tends to go down in the finals and shoots 39% from 3. Those are really good numbers. Then you look at LeBron numbers, you're like, holy crap. Darn near averages the triple-double. 33 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 48% from the field, basically 35% from three-point range. So LeBron, outside of three-point percentage, is better across the board against Steph Curry. Now, Steph's team won 3 times. Steph had the better team in certainly the last 2, and actually 3 of 4. 2016, it was a toss-up. The Cavs ended up winning that series, of course. We view Steph and LeBron as like, oh, that is the peak rivalry since Magic and Bird. Because you had Steph got in 2015 and LeBron got him in 2016. Then Steph got the next 2 after that. And even in the older years, the later years of their career, I remember a game in January, Steph versus LeBron. That was a classic. LeBron was amazing and Steph was amazing. And in a game that featured Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, D'Angelo Russell when he was hot, regular season D'Angelo Russell, all these guys, Steph and LeBron were clearly the best players on the floor at age 35 for Steph and age 39 for LeBron James. Even though LeBron was better than Steph in all 4, I would argue Steph played him at least somewhat after game 1 to a draw in the 2018 finals, but that's beside the point. LeBron generally was better than Steph. Caitlin's generally been better than Angel. But because there's a push-pull, and also because, and this is another, I won't go too far into the stuff that I've already talked about because it's exhausting. How outraged people get about the smallest things in the WNBA that are replicated in every other sport, particularly the NBA. But I do think that we are missing a key theme about what I deem to be a rivalry that we have been begging the NBA to give us. Real, unfabricated, authentic animosity. We've been looking for that. I mean, how long have we heard? Oh, man, NBA is too buddy-buddy. Everybody's friends with everybody. Everybody works out with everybody in the offseason. They know each other from AAU, and they're still cool. We don't like that, which I don't really understand because Charles Barkley golfed with Michael Jordan. Like, the whole buddy-buddy thing has been going on way before this generation. That's beside the point. But we have, in theory, been asking for that. Here you go. Angel Reese, you heard her after the game. She had a quote along the lines of, guess some players get a special whistle. Like I used to think that there wasn't any, I was wrong on that. I don't think Angel likes Caitlin very much. Now, I think a lot of that, as I talked about before, stems from the fact that the greatest moment of my life, winning a national title, because I did a 5 to 10 second celebration that Caitlin did days before, exactly the same as I did against Louisville, that I got nothing but hell from the internet for a year to a degree, still catch it, just because of that one innocent celebration. She didn't assault Caitlin. She didn't flip Caitlin off. She didn't get in her face. None of that. It was just a this and a this. That's all. So I don't think it's, again, what animosity Angel apparently has for Caitlin, I think is not as much at Caitlin, although I think there is some of that, than at the coverage of that moment in 2023, which I understand, by the way. Whereas with Caitlin, you've heard her quote. She praised Angel Reese after the game. She was talking about, Angel has done a lot of great things with the platform. She's got a great fan base, all this, all that. Caitlin's handled this whole situation, perfectly. But also, I know this for a fact. I don't have to talk to Caitlin Clark or get a soundbite from Caitlin Clark to know this. I don't think Caitlin loved the fact that when Kennedy Carter committed the flagrant 1 2 weeks ago, that on that side of the floor with the Chicago Sky bench, Angel Reese almost in sequence to when Kennedy Carter bumps Caitlin, jumps up and pumps her fist. Yeah, let's go, Kennedy. It was like, wow, that came out of nowhere. And then yesterday, I know for a fact, Caitlin doesn't love getting swatted over the head, because guess what? Nobody likes getting swatted over the head. So in that regard, there has to be at least some animosity on Caitlin's part, even though she may not show it. Angel does show it. And so in that regard, I do think it's a rivalry, because I can make a strong case that as great as A'ja Wilson is, best player in the world, Brianna Stewart reigning MVP, Sabrina Ionescu, great, Kelsey Plum, Joel Lloyd, all these great players, that these are the 2 most famous players in the WNBA. The moment between those two, the game, even leading up to that, the 2023 Women's National Championship game in college basketball, that moment was what spearheaded what we're seeing today with the growth of women's basketball. The fact that I am in the middle of an NBA Finals. My second topic is about the WNBA, a regular season WNBA game on a Sunday afternoon. They spearheaded that. And so, in that regard, again, I understand those who say, hey, Caitlin's just much better. It can't be a right. I understand that. But by my definition, there's got to be push and pull. Angel did get Caitlin once. Caitlin's got her the other 3 times. He's like, well, Caitlin's outplayed him all 4 times. Well, LeBron outplayed Steph all 4 finals. We still consider it a rivalry. And they played 2 different positions. Steph's a guard, LeBron's a forward. So it's akin to that. It's not the same because Steph's a top 6 player ever, in my opinion. I think, again, personally, we can argue about it another day. I think LeBron's the greatest player ever. Caitlin and Angel have a ways to go for that. And by the way, love this. Love this comment here. I hope it's a rivalry. Rivalries are good for sports. Indeed, my friend. Indeed. That's what we need. I mean, we've been asking for it. Here you go. And we talk about, that's what we love with college football rivalries, is that there is, because of the years or the decades and decades of battles between these two teams, particularly in college football, that these new kids, and every 4 years, every year, there's these new, recruitment cycles, is they get to sort of inherit the legacy of that hatred. Like, again, I said this as a Vols fan. Like, new Tennessee players inherit a hatred for Florida, for Alabama, to a lesser degree, a Georgia, a Kentucky. So that's the really cool thing about college sports that we'd like to see more of in professional sports. Here you go. You've got it now. And so I hope that it is embraced in that regard. But like I said, I'm not going to acknowledge the tomfoolery of the bad actors who are, I saw one idiot, well-known idiot. You can find him on social media quite easily. That was saying that, like, Angel hit Caitlin because she's white. It's like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this is just, you are literally just saying stuff for clicks and to rile up people. That is your only intention of this, because you don't actually believe it. And again, the idiot that I'm talking about can be found very easily on social media. That tweet can be found very easily in the Twitter algorithm. I'll leave that for another day. Transitioning now to Klay Thompson. So this is a sad topic for me. Not a sad, that's too far. It's a little bit, in a sports sense, a somber topic for me. So I'm a diehard Warriors fan. I have been since the 2013-14 NBA season, which was the first All-Star season for Steph Curry. And it was the last year Mark Jackson was there. And, of course, over the years, Steph's become my favorite player. I've grown to love some of the other Warriors that were on that team throughout their careers and new ones. But on that team, David Lee, Andre Iguodala, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, guys were on that team. Kent Bazemore, I love as a person. He drove me crazy as a basketball player with his missing open corner threes. That's beside the point. But Klay Thompson is a free agent this summer. That's no secret. We've known that for a while. But over the weekend, Klay unfollowed the Warriors on social media. And I would argue, more notably, it's one thing to just hit the unfollow button for a team on Instagram. That's easy. He seemingly either he deleted or archived. I hope he archived so he can put it back on someday. But let's just say for the moment, deleted all Warriors-related pictures or posts on his Instagram account. And so people are surmising that he's trying to send a message to the team, to the organization, that he wants more money than they're offering. We'll see. Here's the first part about this that is notable, that Brian Windhorst, the great Brian Windhorst, talked about this morning on ESPN. He said, after the fight, he said this is a new rule, and I'm reading this directly. This is a direct quote from Wendy. If I can pull this up, if I have the quote. Yeah, here it is. This is a new rule this year. As soon as the finals is over, teams can negotiate with their own free agents. So if the finals ends tonight, we will start seeing contracts, I believe, as early as tomorrow. So by that, you would think LeBron talks to the Lakers, Paul George talks to the Clippers, Tyrese Maxey talks with the Sixers, Klay Thompson talks with the Golden State Warriors. So my position on Klay has been pretty consistent as it pertains to his long-term future with the Warriors, really since the start of last season when he got up to a brutal beginning of the season from three, from just for the field, was not playing good defense, was showing clear signs of decline while still an effective player. I mean, he averaged 18 points per game, was close to 40% 3-point percentage. So he's still an effective player. Like people are like, oh, is Klay a starter? Yeah, Klay's a starter in the NBA. That's not the question. It's he'll never be prime Klay Thompson again, but can he be something close to that? That's the question. And we didn't see that from him last season, except in little spurts here and there. But for Klay Thompson and the Golden State Warriors, they're in an interesting spot, is Golden State. So, and Steve Kerr and Mike Dunleavy Jr. in their exit interviews after the play-in loss to the Kings alluded to this, that we will spend the money to put up a championship caliber team together. What we will not do is spend a ton of money, go into the luxury tax to be the 10 seed and losing our first playing game in blowout fashion. That is not money well spent. So for Golden State, the good news for them, there's a lot of big contracts coming off the books this offseason. Chris Paul made $30 million this year. He's off the books. He's going to be a free agent. The Warriors will opt out of that last year. He probably joins the Lakers. Klay Thompson made about $30 million per year this season. He's off the books. Kevon Looney, the Warriors will save about $5 to $8 million in releasing him after at the start of this offseason. My guess is that's going to happen because I love Kevon, but he's not quite the effective player he used to be. They'll save money there. To me, a big key for Golden State. Can you move Andrew Wiggins' contract? So Andrew Wiggins, if we could pull this up here in terms of what the Warriors owe him, because this is a long extension that's going to take him 3 to 4 years. If I can pull up Andrew Wiggins' contract on Spot Crack right here. Okay. He's on a 4-year contract worth about $109 million. And according to Spot Rack, it will take him into, do we have it? It will take him into 2027, in which he'll have a player option. In 2028, he'd be an unrestricted free agent. And this season, he would make $26 million. The next year, $28 million. The next year after that, $30 million. If you move that, or if you swap salaries with somebody else to get a better player, now you're getting your money's worth. Klay's contract is off your books. Chris Paul's contract is off the books. It's not much, but Kevon Looney's contract is off the books. You're really just playing at this point for sure Steph big money and Draymond big money, which both are still, we know who Steph is, and I will argue till the cows come home I did. Even with the Draymond suspensions of the games Draymond played, the Golden State Warriors were like the 5 seed. I think that in the games Draymond played, the winning percentage would have been about the 5 seed in the Western Conference, which, the 5 seed that was this year, the Dallas Mavericks. So he's incredibly valuable to the Warriors. If I'm Golden State, there's no other way to do contract negotiations than to be honest and to be transparent. You come to Klay and say, Klay, you have given this franchise 13 amazing years. You brought 4 championships. You are a first ballot, no doubt, Hall of Famer. And we would love to have you back because you still have value here. But there is a cap on how much we'll pay. And just be honest and transparent that last season, I don't even want to talk about the 0 for 10 game against Sacramento because that's become a really corny trend on social media that's gotten old pretty quick. But throughout courses of last season, missing open shots, rushing shots. There were times I talked about all throughout the regular season, Klay getting his own head. We'll have you back, but at the right number. And I don't know what that number is for Golden State. My thing is for Klay, and Wendy reported this morning on ESPN that I think Klay is more worried about years than average annual salary. So if that's, to me, I think the Warriors can use that as a negotiating point to say, like, we are going to put a, 15 to 20 mil, that's about where we're going to put the cap. I don't think you can pay Klay Thompson $25 to $30 million, especially over the course of 4 years for where he is at this point in his career, and hope that it will impact you in terms of competing for a championship. Because for me, for Golden State, Steph's great. Draymond's still effective as well. And Jonathan Kuminga, to me, is the only way I think Golden State moves Kuminga, because we saw flashes at the end of last season. There was one game where he went perfect from the field. I think it was against Cleveland? I forget who it was against. We had a perfect game from the field. We better love the deal, and we better think that this guy can help Steph Curry win right now and maximize the rest of his prime. That's the key. But if we know the Orlando Magic have a lot of money, we know the Philadelphia 76ers have some cap space to bring in a guy like a Klay Thompson. The Knicks potentially do. If those teams offer more than what the Golden State Warriors are comfortable with, I think you have to let Klay walk, as painful as that will be. And, I threw out a stat. When was this? I think this was when Klay Thompson was going through struggles. I think this was midpoint of last season. And I threw out a stat that since the 2021-2022 season, the Warriors were like hanging around a few games above 500 when Steph, this is since their championship season. So October of 2021 to April of 2024. When Steph, Klay, and Draymond play together, not including the playoffs, there are a few games over 500. Here's the kicker. When it's just Steph and Draymond without Klay, they're 33-8. At least the last time I saw that stat, 33 wins and only 8 losses. It goes to what I've said. Draymond, and I love Klay. I'll always love Klay. That man, no one will ever wear number 11 ever again for the Warriors, and he should have a statue outside the Chase Center one day. That said, Draymond has always been the second most valuable piece to this operation as far as players are concerned. It's Steph. We know Steph's the guy. Draymond's been number 2. Remember 2016, Draymond suspended, and that sort of turned the tides in that series for Cleveland. Draymond's 2 suspensions this year. You're telling me if he doesn't get suspended either time that the Golden State Warriors don't make the playoffs? The record would say otherwise when he's in the lineup. So for Golden State, to me, the key, and I was on this last season, I'm certainly on it in the offseason, because today as we sit here, I say this as a diehard Warriors fan. The Golden State Warriors are not championship contenders. They're just not. They're not. If it's 10 seed, I get the Draymond suspensions hurt that, but they're not a championship contending team. They need to get, to me, first and foremost, and if they believe Kuminga's the guy, okay, but at 22, 23 years old, boy, is that a big risk. Putting a good, consistent number 2 scoring option next to Steph Curry. Because Klay, love him, he's not that anymore. He's not. The numbers bear it out. If it's Zach LaVine, the injuries concern me. Jimmy Butler, same thing. The Jimmy Butler Miami reports are starting to concern me as a Jimmy Butler fan, that if Jimmy can't work in the Miami locker room, the Golden State one with Draymond, I don't know how that'll work. Now listen, we worried about the Chris Paul-Draymond dynamic. Chris Paul can't speak highly enough of Draymond Green after spending a year with him. So maybe that could work. But to me, Golden State needs to go big game hunting. Paul George, dare I say Kevin Durant, do you offer? That's the only deal I would be okay with offering Jonathan Kuminga in. Like a Kuminga, Moses Moody, Trace Jackson Davis, and a slew of picks for Kevin Durant to send to the Phoenix Suns for KD. LeBron's going to be a free agent. LeBron's going to opt out of his contract with LA. At least make a call to Rich Paul to see if you can bring him in. If you bring LeBron James in, all of a sudden, you got yourself a championship contending ball club. LeBron may be 40, Steph may be 37 next year, but Steph's 36 coming off a season where he averaged 26 a game and won Clutch Player of the Year. LeBron James coming off a season when she averaged 25, 8, and 7 on 50% from the field, 40 from 3. They're still really good players, all-star starter caliber players. And so, but if the number's not right for Klay, now you can't make those. If you offer Klay what the Knicks, what the Magic, what the Sixers would presumably offer him, you can't go get those other guys. Now the door has, I don't want to say slam shut on the chance for Steph to win another title in Golden State, but boy, it is. You gotta get some big dudes. You gotta get The Rock to move that door. You gotta get Shaquille O'Neal to move that door. And so my thing is for Golden State, I think it's really simple. If the number's right for Klay, you bring him back. You do what you can to bring him back. If it's not, you let him walk because he's not that caliber player anymore. Can he still impact them positively? Yes. Just not in the role that he's accustomed to being in. There's a reason Steve Kerr moved him to the bench. There's a reason there was turmoil in that regard. And so, again, I would love to bring Klay Thompson back to the Golden State Warriors, but if the number's not right, and again, at the end of the day, the key, the massive key for Golden State, and the mindset has to be, Steph Curry's 36 years old. He's going to be 37 next year going into year 16. He doesn't have much longer left as peak Steph Curry. We have to maximize. Listen, the Warriors were valued at $375 million in 2009 when Steph Curry joined the team. Today, they're the second most valued sports franchise on the face of the earth to the Dallas Cowboys. That's Steph Curry. Steph Curry has made a lot of people, Joe Lacob, Peter Guber, Bob Mott. Well, Bob's not there anymore. Steve Kerr. Steph Curry's made a lot of people rich in Golden State. They have an obligation to him. Hey, Steph, we're going to do everything in our power to put a championship contending team around him, or around you, and bring Klay Thompson back in a number that's similar to that which he got in 2019 is not going to help us do that. It sucks. It's a tough way for the Klay Thompson Golden State run to end. This is not how I thought it would end. But if you want to try and win more championships with Steph, if the number's not right, you're going to have to cut bait with Klay. You just are. And by the way, for Klay, he's going to have a lot of great opportunities. With the Magic, who have a lot of money, that's a young, up-and-coming team. You know I love Paolo Banchero. That's my guy. You got, again, Philadelphia with Embiid, Maxey. We'll see if they could potentially add somebody else. It'd be hard for them to do that if they, offer money to Klay Thompson, because I don't trust Embiid in the playoffs, as a lot of you know. New York, the only downside with New York is the fact that, I'm not sure if they'll have the cap space to necessarily bring him in. I think they do. But more importantly, at this age and stage of Klay Thompson's career, with his injury history, an ACL and an Achilles, I don't know. You want Klay Thompson playing the Tom Thibodeau minutes in that rotation? I don't think that'll be good for Klay or good for anybody. So that to me, not just for Klay, but for all of the all the free agents, that's the drawback for the Knicks. That's a winning culture. Brunson's a heck of a playoff performer, but man, that's a lot of minutes. Like that is Josh Hart got hurt at the end of the year. OG Anunoby got hurt. Julius Randle got hurt during the regular season. Jalen Brunson got hurt at the end of the year. Like, it's just not sustainable. So that's the drawback for the Knicks, but that's kind of my take on Klay Thompson. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is from Gary Washburn. Just came in a second ago. Missoula said Porzingis Missoula said Porzingis is expected to actually play, which that's important because Missoula said before Game 4, he's available if needed for Game 4, which to me that said he's going to dress, but unless they get into some serious foul trouble or God forbid somebody gets hurt, he's not going to play. It's kind of an the NFL after the Brock Purdy injury against the Eagles 2 years ago in the championship game, they implemented the emergency quarterback thing. That's kind of what it felt like for Porzingis, the emergency player. Whereas tonight, this is from the lips of Joe Mazzulla, he's expected to play tonight. So he hasn't played in a week since Game 2 on Sunday, so it's been 8 days. We'll see. Again, knock on wood, he stays healthy, but I've heard all the doctors, Lisa Salters, who's consulted people, Lisa Salters, who covers the finals on ABC as a sideline reporter, has consulted with medical professionals within the Celtics organization and outside of it who have said this is a weird, again, I'm not going to explain it because I'm not in the medical field, but it's a very weird tendon injury. We'll see what he gives him tonight. Patrick Brown. What's up, Patrick? If Klay, is willing to reduce a reduced salary and role, it could be the right move for him. And that's, again, to me, the only place Klay Thompson should take a reduced salary is Golden State. Klay Thompson's done too much his career. If he's got one last opportunity to get a large contract and he knows he won't get it in Golden State, God bless him, man. I hope he gets all the money he can possibly get in Orlando, Philly, whoever will offer him that money. So, listen, man, I'm whatever the case is, man, I'm always going to love Klay. Whether he's a Warrior now, I'm always going to love Klay. I'm always going to pull for him. And I don't think the Golden State Warriors can contend for another championship if Klay Thompson is making $25-30 million a year in an impact role. Or not an impact role, but a key role for the team. If he comes back at 15-20 mil, comes off the bench as the sixth man, hey, I'm all in. Bring Klay back, man. Other than that, I just don't think it works. Steph Curry's 36. You maximize what's left of his prime. You go big game hunting. You go and get another star player to put next to Steph because LeBron's got a star in AD. Well, we'll see what LeBron does. But as we say here today, LeBron's got a co-star in AD. Okay, you got Jokic got a star in Jamal Murray. Ant's got a star in Cat. Just Tatum's got Brown, or vice versa, depending on who you ask. Luka's got Kyrie. If you look across the league, the super duper stars, Giannis has Dame. The superstars of the NBA have an elite co-star. Steph doesn't have that. Draymond's elite at what he does, but that doesn't translate into being, hey, Draymond, If Steph's not playing well, man, could you drop 25, 34? That's never been Draymond's game. Even when he was a better scorer, when he was averaging about 15 points per game back in the 73-win season, that's just not what Draymond's role is. So getting a secondary scorer to me is the primary objective for the Golden State Warriors this offseason. And listen, in Joe Lacob I trust, in Mike Dunleavy Jr. I trust because he learned under the great Hall of Famer Bob Myers. He'll make it happen. Golden State will get somebody. Again, in my wildest dreams, maybe LeBron. If we make that happen, hello, Golden State may be the favorite out of the West potentially against Denver and Dallas and maybe Minnesota. But got to get somebody. Got to pair Steph with somebody. Otherwise, now you're risking Steph potentially leaving or asking for a trade. I mean, that's the last thing you want. All right, let's move on to what else we got on the docket. Oh, I nearly forgot. Okay. Thank you, Albert Breer, man. You just gave me a topic. Albert Breer, one of the best reporters, one of the best insiders in the National Football League. So I talked about Aaron Rodgers on Thursday and the fact that he missed Jets mandatory minicamp. It's well within his right to do so, but don't lecture us on how football needs to come first. Now we need to be intentional about everything. More on that just a second. But the Jets and Robert Saleh announced last week, talked about it on the show, that Aaron was gone because it was an unexcused absence. This was not a situation where it was like a birth of a child. It was not, God forbid, somebody in the family's sick or it's a wedding or whatever. This was an unexcused absence. Well, now we have more specifics, not exactly, but more specifics from Albert Breer. This is what he wrote, and I quote, "He is somewhere that they could not excuse and maintain credibility with the rest of the locker room, but would be expected, would not be an out of left field thing for him." So you guys can open your minds, so to speak, as he's been known to open his mind sometimes, into all of the possibilities. First of all, that is elite. Let's give Albert Breer a round of applause. You want to talk about wordplay? I want to read that again because that's Kendrick Lamar poetry, man. What was this? So you guys can open your minds, so to speak, as he's been known to open his mind sometimes into all of the possibilities. Albert Breer, kudos to you, my man. That was brilliant. So basically, in the most diplomatic, detail-lacking way possible, he's saying Aaron's on another retreat to get high. That's what he's saying. Now, for the record, I want to make myself abundantly clear when I say this. Whatever Aaron Rodgers is doing, he's probably doing it in like South America or something. Wherever he's doing it, whatever he's doing, he is well within his right to do so. He is. I think a lot of the... Listen, I think the United States for a long time has had a lot of issues as it relates to drug crimes. And so like that's another discussion for another day. But Aaron Rodgers is well within his rights to do whatever he wants to do with whether it's a retreat, a vacation, whatever it is. Again, Albert Breer alluded to ayahuasca. He did. If that's what it is, God bless Aaron. Just a little advice for Aaron. Maybe, just maybe, on mandatory minicamp, mandatory minicamp Aaron Rodgers missed. He is the only Jet to miss for a non-contract related absence. Maybe in the end of season presser, don't lecture us on how important football is to you. This is what Aaron said in January. Take a listen.
Anything that doesn't have anything to do with winning needs to be assessed. So anything in this building that we're doing individually or collectively that has nothing to do with real winning needs to be assessed. Everything that we do has to have a purpose too. When you step in the building, there's intentionality with everything that you do. And it's not a half the time thing. It's not a sometimes thing. It's not a most of the time thing. It's an every time thing. If you want to be a winning organization, you have to put yourself in position to win championships and be competitive. Everything that you do matters. And the bullshit that has nothing to do with winning needs to get out of the building. So that'll be the focus moving forward.
So ironically, Aaron's out of the building. But just don't, again, Aaron's really bad about this. About being all high and mighty. And again, I talked about this last week. We all know that person in our life. We all know them. I can think of some in my life off the top of my head that truly believes they are the smartest person in the room and just lectures you. They tend to be conspiracy theorists, as Aaron is, but lecture you and have this moral high ground over you. Like, hey, we need to do my best Aaron Rodgers impression. Every bit of our approach this offseason, it needs to be intentional. It can't just be a sometimes thing. It's got to be an all the time thing. Interesting. It seems to be an all the time thing for everybody else. Hassan Reddick's not there, but that's for a contract related issue. That's normal. CeeDee Lamb's not there. We know T. Higgins, who I think just signed his contract, his franchise tag today. But T. Higgins says Brandon Ayuk's not at 49ers camp. Like, that's normal. We've seen that. It's almost as if the last player to not be at minicamp for a non-contract related or personal, emergency situation, almost as if the last person to do that was Aaron Rodgers in 2022, his last year with the Green Bay Packers. Aaron likes to tell us how much he cares about winning, how much he cares about football, and what his commitment level is. And I'm not saying that it isn't there at all. It obviously is. That's why his rehab went as well as it did with the Achilles injury, reportedly. But the idea that football is first for him and the idea that he is trying to imply that football is number one on his list, folks, we have as clear as day. Because Robert Saleh said he had an event, or it was reported that there was an event. Robert Saleh said that it was an unexcused absence. There was an event that came at the same time as Jets minicamp. So Aaron Rodgers, who holds football as a high priority and who holds, I guess, ayahuasca, as Albert Breer alluded to, at just as high, if not higher priority. He had to make a decision. And he chose whatever it is, the retreat, the vacation, whatever. Well within his right to do so. By the way, as a regular, average, everyday person, well within his right to do so. As an NFL quarterback, I'd prefer against it. I've talked on and on about how quarterbacks often are the representative for the franchise at large among the players. And so there does have to be a certain decorum you have. There does have to be a certain, don't be getting in trouble off the field. None of that. I don't love Aaron doing this. It's not against the law, but I still don't love him doing that. But you know what? It's still within his right to do so. Just don't lecture us on football being first, Aaron. And forget us. You know what? The media, those of us that cover this stuff, content creators, who cares about us? We don't have any bearing on what the Jets are going to do this season or what you're going to do in your average everyday lives. But to a certain level, Jets fans, and to a large level, Jets teammates. Imagine being a Sauce Gardner who did defend Aaron Rodgers on Twitter, but feels a little bit projecting, to a degree. A Sauce Gardner, a Quinnen Williams, a Tyron Smith in year 15. Year 14, Tyron Smith. Who else? Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, all these guys for the Jets. You don't think they're a little bothered that, hey, I'm working my arse off at practice today. This guy back in January talked about, hey, anything that doesn't have anything to do with football, we got to get that stuff out of the building. I'm here, Aaron. Where are you at? You're chilling. And one could say, well, I mean, if it works, if it results in winning, here's the thing. Last time Aaron had some sort of retreat like this was, in fact, 2022. Let's go back before that. How about this? Let's go to Aaron Rodgers' I've done this over and over, but we'll do it again. Aaron Rodgers' last 22 games. This goes back to his MVP season. Put up the numbers. 36 touchdowns, 12 picks, completes about 66% of his passes, pass rating of 96, throws for about 218 yards per game, but has a record of 11-11, so he's a 500 quarterback, 0 300-yard games, and 0 playoff wins. Now, the 36 touchdown, 12 picks, the 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, excellent. 66% completion, you'll take that any day of the week. 96 pass rating, really good. Really good. But 500 quarterback, again, 22 games. He has not thrown for 300 yards once in that span. So when you talk about this whole, Aaron Rodgers resurgence and maybe this vacation getaway, whatever you want to deem it as, will get him back there. I don't believe that, because last time we saw it, he led the Packers to an 8-9 record. And they moved on from it in favor of Jordan Love, and you saw that worked out for Green Bay and how it's working out for Green Bay, and Jordan Love appears to be the future and the answer at quarterback. So Aaron has the right to do whatever he wants to do. Just don't lecture us that football is the number one thing for a guy who has not won a Super Bowl in 13 years. I just come up in the playoffs, come up very small in the playoffs, time and time and time again. So anybody in your life, like there's always that one person who tells you how important something is to them, like family's important to them, but their actions say otherwise, or their job is more important to them, but their actions say otherwise. Aaron tells you my job, which is playing professional quarterback, is the most important. I'm going to go take an ayahuasca trip in the middle of mandatory minicamp. Just throwing that out there. Patrick Brown, Aaron Rodgers contradicting arriving on schedule. Somewhere Green Bay is having the last laugh. Oh, are they? The repeated pattern of behavior didn't leave. B.D. Smith says, it's Aaron Rodgers, though. What other choice do the Jets have? He has the organization by the cahoots. Ain't nothing the Jets can do but let it go. Agreed. Totally agree with that, B.D. Smith. Here's the issue. That, again, it's not the fact that the Jets are I'm not criticizing the Jets for letting this happen. Like you said, what is supposed to do? Cut Aaron Rodgers? Now what do they do at quarterback? So, but this is the bet they made, and the Jets franchise, Saleh has a legitimate gripe, but because I don't think he necessarily had say in Aaron coming or not coming. But the entire Jets front office, Joe Douglas, everybody, the owner, Woody Johnson, they got to wear this one. They've been wearing it, but they got to keep wearing it because they made their bet and they're underlaying it now. Patrick, the investment New York has made in protecting Aaron, he can't show up to build the chemistry with those guys. Miss me with that. TB12 over Aaron all day, any day. Well, listen, I've been arguing that since the start of carving it up. And when that was not it, by the way, people are like, well, duh, Brady over Rodgers. Folks, as recently as 4 or 5 years ago, that was not a consensus opinion. It wasn't. People are like, Brady's got the rings, but he's got Belichick. If Rodgers had Belichick, he would have lasted a half decade. I mean, just read the book. It's a very long book, but read The Dynasty by Jeff Benedict, which is one of my favorite sports books I've ever read in my life. And he goes into vivid detail about the sort of the way Belichick would just rail on Tom Brady. And eventually we're on Brady to the point where he left or was pushed out the door, depending on who you ask. But it did set the culture in New England like, hey, if Bill can yell at Tom, he can yell at anybody. Now, again, Bill's sort of drill sergeant mentality, it just doesn't translate in today's NFL, and he didn't adjust the way that McVay has. And by the way, there's a difference between coaching people hard and being a drill sergeant. To me, those are two different things. But they coach hard in the NBA. Steve Kerr coaches very hard in the NBA. Pop does, Spo does, Missoula does. So, these are, by the way, I'm not saying Missoula is another level, those guys, just clarification. I agree with you, BD Smith. I totally agree with you. BD Smith says he's setting himself up for a Senate run. You heard it here first. Oh, BD, he was reportedly, according to every source in the book, one of the people on a short list of candidates for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be the vice presidential nominee of the United States of America. Which, listen. The one thing I love about Aaron Rodgers is the fact that he makes my job easy. He provides me with constant, during the football season, I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers every week of the show, whether it's something said on McAfee, whether anything. So in that regard, I love Aaron, but can you imagine if RFK Jr. had actually picked him? It'd be like Aaron would say, hey guys, week 6, week 7, I'm going to have to miss practice tomorrow, miss film study, because I got this darn vice presidential debate against Kamala Harris and whoever Trump's VP pick is. Sorry, I can't be there today. Now RFK is an independent candidate, so obviously he's not going to win. But still, that would have been something. Patrick, Shannon Sharp was right for a decade, and people wanted to refute that it was all Cap. He went on nightcap and told everyone the cold truth. He was right. And now everyone has seen the light. Oh, I haven't seen the light, Patrick. I've been saying this for a long time. Long time about Aaron Rodgers. I've said his leadership qualities were at best a D, at worst an F. And you're seeing it once again. Aaron could go on his ayahuasca trip. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't tell us how much winning in football matters to you. That's all. That's all. All right. Last topic of the day. And it's an important one. So in an hour, we got Game 5 of the 2024 NBA Finals between the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. For the second straight game, Boston can become the 2024 NBA champions. Let's get the background music to predict Game 5, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Dallas, Boston. In TD Garden, the Boston Celtics in this game are 6.5-point favorites. That line really hasn't moved. I think it kind of opened at around the 6.5, 7 line after Game 4 concluded. It's mostly stayed the same, so people are mostly picking Boston across the board. The people like Boston in this spot, and I understand why. I talked about at the start of the show that I'm giving Boston about a 90% chance to win tonight, because they've been great. Again, the whole coming of this playoffs, my main concern for Boston is, man, they are an average team at home. And I couldn't explain it. It didn't make sense to me. The only thing I could theorize was the fact that it felt like Boston kind of plays down or plays up, depending on the situation, to their competition. Like, you had the weird loss to Miami at home in Game 2 of the first round. You had the weird loss to Cleveland in Game 2 of the second round. Just odd. They, tried every which way to lose Game 1 of the conference finals to Indiana at home, so they had some close calls. Game 1 was a blowout. Game 2, Dallas played pretty well, and Luka was great in, but just didn't have enough shot makers at the end. Boston was able to kind of pull that one out in the fourth quarter. This one tonight, I think, is going to be a little different than the first two games of the series. So I think this is going to be... We've seen great defensive performances across the board in these finals. Boston was amazing defensively in Game 1 and amazing defensively in the fourth quarter of Game 2. I thought both teams were tremendous. Boston, throughout the course, the 3 quarters of Game 3, Dallas was phenomenal defensively in the fourth quarter of Game 3. And then obviously in Game 4, some of that was great Dallas defense and Luka, really putting forth an effort, holding Boston players to 2 of 11 from the field. But a lot of that was Boston saying, listen, we got a Game 5. If the shots aren't falling, oh well, it is what it is. Dallas will get their game. We'll close them out back at home at TD Garden. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a defensive war out there tonight. I don't think either team's going to break 100. That's kind of my bold prediction, is that neither team breaks 100. I think Luka's going to give you about 32 points. Luka puts up a stat line around like 32. I'd like to see Luka dish out at least 9 assists. So I'll say 32, 9, and 7 for Luka Doncic tonight. The other guys for the Mavs, again, kind of going out in transition, which they did a lot in Game 4. I have been all but begging Dallas to do more of that, because that's what helped them get on this hot streak at the end of the regular season, second half, post-All-Star break, into the playoffs, this transition, up-tempo, everybody gets involved. Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, Derek Jones Jr., and P.J. Washington. Everybody gets involved. I mean, Tim Hardaway, for crying out loud, hit 5 threes in the fourth quarter. Only Ray Allen and Steph Curry have done that in a quarter of an NBA Finals. Go figure. The key for tonight, this is where I get nervous, is Mr. Kyrie Irving, who has had, I talked about earlier, won't go through the whole spiel again, but has struggled badly in Boston. Clearly, it's not deniable. The home crowd has gotten to him. But he comes back home. We can put up the stats one more time. Comes back home in Dallas and was great. 28 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. But let's just forget the assists and rebounds. 28 points on 50% shooting from the field, 41% from three-point range. So Kyrie was excellent in the 2 games in Dallas. His first 2 games in Boston, he was bad in. My hope for Kyrie is the fact that the Dallas crowd, the 2 games in Dallas helps Kyrie take a breather, settle in, and in what is the biggest game of his career since Game 7. There will be no bigger game of his career than Game 7 of the 16 finals, because he hit one of the biggest shots in finals history. Is Kyrie Irving stepping up to the plate? He doesn't have to be Superman. That's Luka's job. Luka's job is to be Superman. Luka be a good co-star. Be like Kobe Bryant to Shaquille O'Neal. Not, again, Kyrie's not Kobe, but be Scottie Pippen. Pippen was the score-first guy. Be a Scottie Pippen to Michael Jordan. Give me 25 points, on efficient shooting. Give me at least a good effort on the defensive end. Don't go all out because I want you to have energy for the offensive end. Because Dallas can't win if Kyrie's not great tonight. They can't. Kyrie, give me 25. Give me efficient shooting and give me good play in the fourth quarter. That's all I'm asking. Because I think Luke can carry the job from there after that. So, last point before I predict the game. If the Boston Celtics win the NBA Finals, they're going to do it tonight. They're going to do it tonight because they're at home. They got the momentum. They got the split in Dallas that they wanted. And this feels like if the Celtics win tonight, this feels like a classic. John Rivera alluded to it in the comments earlier. A classic 2024 Boston Celtics win. Tatum gives you an inefficient 20. Brown gives you about that, maybe 25 points. Maybe explodes for 30. I don't know. But let's say 23-24 for Brown. Al Horford hits a couple threes. Derek White hits about 5-6 3-point shots. Let's say 5 for Derek White. Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard gives you what they can off the bench. And Porzingis, we'll see what he's able to give you. I'm more looking for him to be impactful as a shot blocker and a rim protector on the defensive end of the floor. Drew Holiday as well. Drew Holiday can give you like 19 points tonight. If those things happen, Boston's going to win. A classic team effort from Boston. If the Celtics do not win tonight, the Dallas Mavericks, barring injury, are going to win the NBA championship and become the first team to come back from the 3-0 deficit. You heard it here first. Because they're going to win Game 6 in Dallas. Luka's not getting closed out at home after winning 2 straight games and securing the momentum for the series. In Game 7, you want to talk about pressure on Boston. The pressure on Jaylen Brown. Can he get it done? Can he get it done? He keeps coming up short over and over and over. We have questions about Mazzulla. All this, all that. Now we have we have questions not about whether you can win, but hey, are you one of the greatest teams ever? Jayson Tatum before Game 4 says, hey, guess we got to win it next year, almost assuming, hey, we got the job done this season. They very well may. But this puppy goes to a Game 7 at the TD Garden on Sunday night. Oh my goodness. Dallas is playing with house money. If they lose, they were supposed to be in a Game 7 after being down 3-0. Most people who picked the Celtics had Celtics in 5. Luka is Superman. 32, 9, and 7. Kyrie gives you 26 points on efficient shooting. The bigs for Dallas, Gafford and Lively, who have been much better than I thought they'd be in the series as a guy who picked Dallas, show up, secure the rebounds again. He can't give a bunch of offensive rebounds. Can't give Boston second chance points. Push the ball in transition. Don't let Boston's defense get set. And the Dallas Mavericks win Game 5, 98-97 by the skin of their teeth. And yes, giving the Mavs plus 6.5. No question about it. This is going to be a close game. I think neither team reaches 100. I think this is a defensive battle for 48 minutes in Boston. Mavs 98, Celtics 97. We've got a Game 6 in Dallas, Texas. And boy, you will have a whole different feeling of a series. Pick integrity. I'm sticking with it against history. And I believe in historical precedent. I do. In politics, in sports, in life, historical precedent does matter. But I had to buck that in the name of something I believe to the core of my being. Pick integrity. You go down, when you make a pick, it could be to go to a team that goes to the Super Bowl, team goes to the NFC Championship game. I picked the Lions to go to the NFC title game last year back in April. So, fun fact. I've also picked the Broncos to win the Super Bowl before the 2022 season. I was wrong on that. But I also picked the Warriors to win the 2022 title back in October before that season started. So, it's good, it's bad, but you go down with the ship. Your pick is your pick. So, Mavs win tonight. Let's see what we got. B.D. Smith. Celtics should win unless Luka goes for a 50-point triple-double. KP gives them 20 minutes. Boston should win. Like, that is, to me, that is a huge key in the series, BD, is whether Porzingis is able to... It's one thing if he can give them like 10 to 15 point scoring, that'd be huge. But if Porzingis can be the effective rim protector that he was for the first, game and 3 quarters of the first 2 games of the series, boy, it's going to make things tough for Boston. Really tough. BD, Kyrie going to get at least 25, but unless Luka scores 50 and records a triple-double, Boston is winning. Listen, I am worried about the Boston role players. I am, but I'm also of the mindset Game 1 notwithstanding. Game 2, because Luka was great in Game 2, not in the fourth quarter, but for 3 quarters, Luka was great. Were the role players bad? Yes, they were bad. Gafford was pretty good, but the rest of the guys didn't play very well. I believe if Kyrie Irving gives them a B-plus game in Game 2, the Mavs win that game. Because remember, they were down 5, under a minute to go. Was it P.J. Washington was going up for a layup? It gets blocked by Derek White and then I think by Jaylen Brown at the end of it. So he could have laid that in. It would have been a 3-point game. If Kyrie gives them a B-plus game in Game 2, Mavs win that game. Tied series 1-1, and we have a different feel coming into Game 5 tonight. And so if you can get one Mav, again, my pick is Derek Lively to be effective tonight. But Kyrie has to be at least really, if he's great, then Dallas is in phenomenal shape. He has to be really good. Get the ball in transition, push if you're Dallas. Again, if the Celtics are the 2024 NBA champions, it happens tonight, Monday, June 17th in TD Garden, the Celtics 2024 NBA champions. If they don't, Dallas will win the finals. That's what I believe. History be made. Pick integrity. Stick with it. Dallas wins tonight, and boy, oh boy, do we have a really interesting Game 6 in Dallas, Texas. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Wednesday. We're back on Wednesdays. We did Thursdays because of the final schedule. We're back on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel, of course. Be sure to like, share, comments, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. It helps the channel grow exponentially. We just surpassed 1,000 subscribers about a month ago. We greatly appreciate everybody who has taken time out of their day to give this show a shot, to go so far as to check out our content, and to go so far as to hit the big red subscribe button. So if you haven't, just takes a couple seconds. Hit it down there, and boom. You're part of the Carving It Up family. If you have subscribed, thank you so much for your love and your support. It means everything to me and to everybody associated with Carving Up Live. Be sure to tell your friends about Carving Up Live. Tell your family about Carving Up Live. Tell everybody about Carving Up Live. Just do not tell your sleeping cat about it. Don't do it. Nealon's been in a good mood as of late. He's been good. He can be moody, but he's been good. Just as importantly, be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere you get your favorite podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, any and everywhere you get your favorite podcasts, where you can find it on the Grid Network, where we dare to be different. All right. Dallas tonight, 98-97 in a defensive battle. Neither team gets to 100. That's my bold prediction for the night. Mavs plus 6.5, and Mavs win straight up. 98-97. Luka, 32-9-7. Kyrie goes for 26, an efficient 26. And the Mavs hold off a celebration in Boston. And we got ourselves a real interesting Game 6. All right, fun show. We will see you on Wednesday at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. Appreciate everybody who chimed in the comments. B.D. Smith, Patrick Brown, Barry Grant Jr., John Rivera. I think we had also somebody else as well chime in the comments. Shout out to them as well. So we will see you on Wednesday. Please stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. It doesn't matter where you lean, right, left, center. This is an issue that impacts every single one of us as American citizens. And no matter what anybody on either side of the aisle tries to gaslight you on, oh, this isn't a problem at all, or oh, there's only one solution to this problem. Both are BS. Both are not true. Both are absolute nonsense. It's a huge problem with a number of multifaceted, nuanced solutions to it. So definitely we got to do our part to address it and make sure those in power know how we feel about it. All right. See you on Wednesday. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Come on, Mavs. Pull through for me, baby. Pick integrity.